You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast, where freedom rings and the sassiness stings. Stay tuned for a little bit of sassy freedom. Hello, and welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. Before we get too far, we just wanted to take a moment to wish everyone a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. We are so grateful for the sacrifices of our military men and women that have allowed us to have a weekend to celebrate. So thank you, one and all, for those who have sacrificed for us. Tonight, we're going to shake things up a little. Instead of our usual formats where we each talk about something that we found during the week and discuss them, we've decided that the events in Manchester, England warranted a full show. So that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight. But fear not, we will end the show on a happy note with Ring the Bell. Also, before we get started, our good friend and part-time Bell, Rocky, is joining us tonight. So welcome back, Rocky.
Thank you, ladies. Always a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so as I said, our main focus is going to be Manchester because so much happened throughout the week since the attack, which happened, I think it was Monday. So it's been pretty much a week since that occurred. And there's been a whole slew of information that's come out since the attack, a whole slew of idiocy that's happened since the attack. And also, a whole slew of kind of inspiring events and people that have made me a little bit more hopeful for the future than I was at the beginning of the week. Not too much, though. If I get too optimistic, then everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But I have a little bit of hope. So I guess we were going to start out this show a little bit by talking about what happened. Obviously, since it happened on Monday, that information is sort of out there. I'm pretty sure everybody's pretty well caught up. But I guess we can do a little bit of a recap now that we know a little bit more about the attacker, things that have happened. So I'll open it up to everybody else where we want to get started and go from there.
So the information that has come out so far, the attacker's name is Salman Abedi. He's 22 years old. This gentleman had been known to British intelligence for some time. He had traveled to Syria and Libya, and he was planning on going to Saudi Arabia sometime in the future. It's been really interesting, the information that has come out about his family, his immediate family, especially his mother and his father. His mother seems to be a nuclear physicist. Not that there's anything nefarious about that, but it has been discovered that he had spoken to his mother recently, and his father seems to have some ties with an organization called Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and this was he seemed to be involved with that group sometime in the 90s, and this group has seemed to transition into becoming an arm of Al-Qaeda. It seems that both the father, Ramadan Abedi, and Hashem Abedi have been detained in Libya for the time being by counter-terrorist forces on suspicion of Islamic State links. As far as the attack is concerned, the information that has come out, it seems that the attacker avoided any semblance of security by just waiting until the concert was over and basically planting himself near one of the exits or near one of the main exits. So anybody who knows anything about emergency situations, you always head to your major exits when you need to leave in case of an emergency. So in this case, Ariana Grande's concert comes to an end, everybody starts to leave, and he basically goes and waits in a concourse area, and he has this bomb strapped on himself. It's a bomb that was, I guess, similar in concept to the Boston bombing bombs that were made at that time. So it was full of shrapnel and nails and items that could cause maximum damage. So it appears that the upper half of his body exploded along with everybody else who was within immediate radius of this area. So because he waited until the end, there was absolutely no need for him to be checked by security or anybody else, which seems to be the norm for any kind of venue of this size. So there's always security points, checkpoints. They'll check your bags, they'll check your person, and then you're allowed to go in. He avoided it all by just waiting until the concert was over.
Well, I think the most frustrating part about this is the fact that he was known as a potential threat, but yet was still sort of disregarded as that potential threat, which I think my frustration with that is because that seems to keep happening both overseas and here, where we've had lots of instances where the Pulse club shooting, he was on our radar. They knew who he was. They knew that he was potentially dangerous and yet did nothing. And then we're looking at all of these dead people because he wasn't taken into custody or even I don't even know, wasn't even suspected of doing anything. So I think that's what infuriates me the most is that these are people, our intelligence communities are supposed to be preventing this from happening. And yet we keep seeing these terrible, horrific things happening because nobody does anything to stop them. And I don't know if it's because somehow legally their hands have been tied or if they're so afraid that someone's going to say something or do something wrong that's going to get them sued or some backlash because of someone's behavior. I don't know. It just makes me mad that every time this happens these days, they're known. People know who they are, and they're on someone's radar somewhere.
Well, and I just think it's really frustrating because obviously if they have never committed a crime, you can't go in and take them. But if you have enough evidence to have some sort of conspiracy to commit a crime, I don't understand. Like, the news has just been saying he was known to the police. Well, that doesn't tell me a lot of information because obviously in America, at least, it's, innocent until proven guilty or, being caught in the moment. But also in the UK, their PC laws are ridiculous. You can pretty much be charged with a hate crime just for saying, I don't agree that, Islam is a religion of peace. Well, that's a slur. You can be charged with a hate crime and get a fine. So it's really difficult, I think, for law enforcement in the UK, just because the PC culture does have their hands tied so tightly. And the other thing that this whole thing makes me really upset is that because of our reporters here and because of leaks in our own intel community, the UK has changed their policy with how they want to deal with intelligence of the United States. Because they didn't want it known, the name of the guy, because they were trying to go after his associates. And so since his name was known internationally and covered in our big news, they were like, that potentially you could have let some people escape that we were about to go investigate and arrest. So they're changing their policy on how they're going to work with us in the future.
Yeah, well, that New York Times article that came out a couple days after the fact, I was a little surprised when I was reading it that it was information that anybody would be willing to share so close to the event. A lot of this kind of stuff you never find out until well after the fact, which was So when I was looking at, they had like pictures of the shrapnel, they had pictures of the device, of different evidence that they had found, and I was surprised to see that that was being shared in a news article, because it was like 2 or 3 days after the explosion, and obviously this is still an open investigation. So finding out shortly after that the UK is like, yeah, well, we're probably not going to share any more information on this case with you guys, because that was not information we were hoping on sharing. So...
And it seems like, I guess, seeing it from the Brits' perspective is you don't want to show your hand. You don't want to necessarily know what you know, because if you want to go after a larger network of terrorists, then you don't want to give out all of your information, all the intelligence that you've gathered so far, because these people will start fleeing. But apparently in some of the connections and all the information that has come out, some of these, the network seems to be so wide that it seems to be linked in different ways to other of the more recent attacks, like the ones in Brussels and the ones in France. So, I guess Britain's trying to find a way to just kind of control the information a little bit, to see if they can just nip it at the center and just kind of go for the big fish instead of going after the little fish. The little fish are the guys who blow themselves up. Obviously, they have no regard for their own lives or the lives of others. It's the ones that are telling these people to go blow themselves up that I'm pretty sure the intelligence community is more interested in investigating. And by the media in the US, basically telling them everything that they know, it just kind of defeats the purpose of any kind of attempt that British intelligence may be trying to gather information.
Gee, and I wonder why no one believes the media anymore.
Well, I'm like, this is, in the last 2 weeks, this is the second country that has changed the way it deals with intelligence with the United States. And you can blame it on Donald Trump if you want, but the bigger issue is that our intel community has someone in it who's disgruntled, who is talking to the press. That's the only explanation. Someone wouldn't have been that close, like a reporter wouldn't be that close to someone in the UK. You know what I mean? So it's really frustrating for me, just from the aspect that it's our reputation as well, that we can't keep our mouths shut with other people's secrets.
Yeah, and that is the disturbing part, and we're going to find ourselves very much alone if any of this stuff blows up into, and I don't mean that, that was a poor choice of words, if this turns into something it shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, between North Korea and ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all of these, we've got people who are literally looking for the end of the U.S., and we're going to find ourselves friendless very soon if we can't trust the people who are supposed to be in charge of our departments, our CIA, our FBI's, our, these intelligence, and I use air quotes because it doesn't seem like they're very intelligent, but these communities that are supposed to be getting us information to protect ourselves and our allies, and we're not going to have any left if we keep pulling the rug out from underneath them and just making it impossible for them to trust us with information that their people are risking their lives for. And I think that's what irritates me as just a regular citizen. So
yeah, it's definitely frustrating. So we've laid out the facts for you guys. Coming up next, we're going to talk about other people's stupid opinions. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. We just laid out the facts of what happened in Manchester this week. And some of the blowback from it, with people giving their stupid opinions, has left us all a little bit questioning why people are allowed on the internet. So to start off this topic, Rocky's going to break it down for us.
Yes. So This is really cute because it's one of those situations where Cosmo wants to turn into a reputable publication. So obviously the situation in Manchester has driven everybody to madness, and in what I'd consider to probably be one of the most egregious cases of media malpractice this week, Cosmopolitan published this really interesting, I'd probably call it a comedy masterpiece on their website. So according to various conservative media outlets like The Blaze, Daily Caller, Town Hall, and Twitchy, there are reports of a situation where a journalist, and I put that in quotation marks, a journalist for Cosmo, her name is Milan Torres, she praises a Muslim cab driver for being really wonderful, giving people free cab rides in the aftermath of Monday's terrorist attack in Manchester. The problem is that the man featured in the pictures isn't Muslim at all. He's Sikh. But according to the dolts over at Cosmo, any brown-skinned man with a turban on his head equals Muslim. Let me tell you, girls, the backlash was absolutely glorious. I am a big fan of Schadenfreude, and this was Schadenfreude delicious. Social media immediately blew up on them. What happened was that there's an organization or a group called the Sing Lions. The person who handles the account decides to tweet a picture of this gentleman. The tweet reads, "Not just Gurudwaras in Manchester offering victims food and accommodation, this Sikh cab driver is offering free taxi service to the needy. #RT. The tweet had a picture of the gentleman wearing a turban with a beard. He's photographed in front of his vehicle where it says free taxi if needed. The reporter for Cosmo contacts this Twitter account and asks them, "Hey, I'm with Cosmo. I'm really interested in using this picture for an article that we are going to write. Is that okay?" The person says, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead and use the picture." Then they turn around and they publish a tweet completely misrepresenting the religious affiliation of this gentleman. An organization named the Sikh Press Association was actually one of the first ones to point out to Cosmo that the man featured in a screenshot and apparently a YouTube video associated with the story is Sikh, and that they were misinforming millions of people with their tweets. The barrage of tweets pointedly made fun at Cosmo of their willful ignorance and the hatcheted message of acceptance. Perhaps next time they should just stick to quizzes on how to please your man and how to tame the frizzies and all of those fashion no-nos. Of course, to no one's surprise, the Cosmo Twitter account deleted the tweet and the link, but they seem to forget that Twitter is forever in this day and age. It was really curious to me because I really don't know where Cosmo all of a sudden decided that they'd be advocates of religious tolerance, albeit when it only comes to certain religions. So Christians, Mormons, Catholics, and all you folks, you hold your horses there because Cosmo doesn't want any of your business. I did do a little bit of digging as to the origins of the magazine, and according to Wikipedia, Cosmopolitan was originally meant to be a family-oriented magazine, similar to like what Real Simple magazine is nowadays, maybe Southern Living, things of the sort. It was meant to be a medium for fashion, literature, culture, family living, and all of these things that were of interest to women. However, in the 60s, they decided to change their tone towards the modern career woman, and they started broaching topics of women's sexuality a little bit more openly. However, it wasn't until 2014 that they started to show more involvement in politics, and ultra-progressive politics at that. Perhaps now they will learn to self-edit before they go around posting things.
Well, I will say in Cosmo's defense, for the politics side, they did hire my girl Tara Setmeyer to write some columns. So
they're only saving grace.
I was going to say that I can't completely trash them just because I love Tara so much. She's like my favorite person. But that's just, I mean, people are so stupid, and there's after any kind of jihadist, specifically the jihadist attack, you always see, like, look at all these peaceful Muslims, and they were so quick to pull the trigger. They didn't seemingly do any fact checking, and the guy wasn't even Muslim. So that's just super frustrating. And then when you look at, everyone is always telling you that, you have to be wary of what is it, Islamophobia and hate crimes against the Muslim community. And there's always this rush to be like, well, look at this white terrorist that you don't call a terrorist. You call him a quote-unquote lone wolf. People use the term lone wolf when they're talking about jihadi a lot, until it comes out and ISIS comes out and says, oh, yeah, we're going to claim responsibility for that. So it's just, I don't know. People drive me crazy.
And the most frustrating thing about the Cosmo thing is that they, in one of the articles that I reviewed, they have the side-by-side picture. It is the exact, like I said, the exact same picture that the original Seeing Lions account tweeted, and they changed the title or they changed the text of the tweet to Muslim taxi drivers took kids trying to escape the Manchester Ariana Grande concert home for free. You consciously changed the information. You knew full well what the story was about. You knew full well what this guy was doing, all of the details about this gentleman you knew, and you purposefully turned it around and turned it into see, not all Muslims are bad. Yes, we know that not all Muslims are bad, but you're making a fool out of yourself by assuming that someone with a turban on their head is Muslim. They're committing the crimes that they accuse the right and conservatives of doing, of using broad generalizations to describe a group of people. It's, you guys are doing this to yourself, and it's amazing that you fall for it yourself. You do this to yourself.
Well, what I thought was pretty interesting was that they thought that the readers and anybody who saw that picture was like, it's an insult to everybody's intelligence to think that someone wouldn't pick that out. And I think that it was awesome that if you look at the retweets versus the reply response, it's pretty telling that tweet is garbage. Because you look at, there was, I think probably 1,000 replies by the time I saw it, and there was 4 tweets, because everyone was calling Cosmo on that BS. It's like, you either think that, it's like there's only 2 options. Either you're racist and you think that every brown person is such and such, every white person is such and such, or you intentionally misrepresented the facts and you thought that we were too stupid to understand the difference.
Well, obviously we've learned that just because it's on the internet doesn't make it true. And also that you don't have to apologize for the stupid things that you do or say, at least not meaningfully, because this isn't the only instance of stupidity that we've seen on the internet since this attack. I mean, one of the very first things that came out was by a writer. We've been using a lot of air quotes today because I feel like not a lot of accuracy in these determining words here. But David, I'm assuming his last name is Leavitt because he should have leaved it alone. But he apparently thought he was super clever because he tweeted less than an hour after the attack that multiple confirmed fatalities at Manchester Arena. Last time I listened to Ariana Grande, I almost died too. Okay, no, there actually were confirmed fatalities, douchebag, as in 8-year-old girls and teenagers and people who still are wondering what happened to their children. People were injured at this at this event because of someone's complete lack of a soul, I guess. And you're joking about it because you don't like Ariana Grande. And for like almost 2 hours, this guy did not do anything to make up for the fact that he had just made a joke at the expense of people who had been either maimed or murdered because he thought it was funny. And his responses were like, honestly, for over a year, I thought Ariana Grande was something you ordered at Starbucks. Oh, I thought it was trending, so I just make stupid jokes about things that are trending, guys. As if that makes it all better. And then it took him almost 2 hours to actually put out an apology, which actually was more of a, I'm sorry you were offended by the thing I said that was actually offensive. So this isn't.
It was utter nonsense.
It was, and it was just disgusting to see someone be so callous at the fact, and maybe it's because we're so used to seeing this sort of stuff happen anymore. It's because it's like a dime a dozen you see a terrorist attack, especially in Europe now that we're dealing with this, migration crisis. But it's infuriating. And he wasn't the only one. Obviously, Katy Perry had to get her 2 cents in to talk about how we just need to not have borders. No walls, no borders, just love and unity and coexisting, guys. Because obviously being a hippie makes a difference when you're dealing with jihadis. And I'm like, I would love to have that attitude of where we just need to hug each other. Hug it out, guys. Hug it out. I would love to have that attitude. No. Unfortunately, I live in the real world, and I know it doesn't work that way. And it's especially, as people have pointed out, easy for somebody who has millions of dollars who can afford a gated community and armed security to say we all just need to coexist with people who want to blow us up.
We are going to run into a break, guys. I want to pick this up on the other side of the break so we can continue talking about this, because I feel like there's so much more to it than just Katy Perry's an idiot. It's just this all around warm fuzzies don't save the world, actually.
But Katy Perry is an idiot.
Yeah, but Katy Perry is an idiot. So stay with us and we'll come back and pick this up again.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. We left off talking about stupid celebrities and their stupid opinions. And we didn't really get to fully flesh out our thoughts on Katy Perry and her, we need to just coexist with these people. And Sean Parnell actually had a pretty good quote, and Courtney, you have it?
Right. I thought that this was a great quote. It says, it's really easy to say coexist and advocate for open borders when you live in a gated compound surrounded by armed guards. I thought that was a really great quote because it just kind of shows how removed from society, from real society, that celebrities are. Like, we live in the real world. Okay, we need real security. I don't gotta have an armed guard run around with me. And then on the flip side, as you have people who are pushing for total gun control, it's like, well, I would like to be my own armed guard, but now you're not letting me do that. And I think the part that I love most about Sean Parnell's quote here is that it's like, why is the burden always on us who aren't bombing people? Why is it up to us to coexist with the people who are bombing us? So I just thought that was something good to think about.
Well, right. And I think during his interview with Fox, he also talked about Katy Perry should try and go have a concert in Syria and see how well that goes. Her I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It would not go over well in the Muslim community, theocracy-held countries. So, I mean, and she talks about how bigoted and how terrible Christians are, even though she was raised as one, and both her parents are pastors, but I'm going to leave that alone. But it's just really frustrating when you see people who like to blame the innocent people, I mean, they talk about victim shaming and all this stuff. Those people in that concert hall didn't do anything to that man except exist. And he decided he could not coexist with them. And he blew them up, including himself.
Well, and that also is something that I noticed with this too, because a lot of people went out of their way to dig up that footage of Ariana Grande licking donuts and saying how much she hates Americans and things like that, as though that were some sort of reason or justification that this person would come and do what he did. Like, first of all, she's in England, so it wouldn't make much sense that someone would try to blow her and her fans up because she said something nasty about America. But okay. But it just infuriated me to see that, because it's like, I am no fan of Ariana Grande by any means. I don't like her music. I don't like her personality. I don't care much for the persona anyway that she puts out for people to make money. But nothing that she has done would justify somebody using nail bombs to murder her fans. And I think it was kind of a deflection, because once again, we're looking at, well, how do we spin this so it doesn't look bad for Muslims and Islam? So why don't we blame it on her? And that's, just the attitudes in general has really what's caused me to be kind of upset with people, and kind of made me wonder how humanity has managed to survive into 2017, given the attitude and the justifications that we've seen across the board.
Right. And so, yeah, a lot of times, I kind of think, hey guys, your bloodlust is showing when something happens at an event that people already are not fans of, or already have some kind of objection to, like the people who were saying, well, Ariana Grande hates America and now she's going to come back here and be safe here. Like, okay, but she has freedom of speech. She can say what she wants. She can think what she wants. And at least America is still here for her to come back home to, So, I kind of get a little iffy on people who
can
like
easily
to say,
judge her by not purchasing her music or going to her concerts. I mean, if that attitude that she has is really that concerning, she wouldn't have the amount of fans that she does, and she certainly wouldn't have a world tour to go on if people were really that concerned about it, or really felt like, yeah, she said it and it was really, that was really disgusting. And I'm sure maybe she lost some revenue because of it, but not anything to justify the kind of responses that we've been seeing from people in general. Right after this attack occurred, any suggestion that was her fault was completely in the wrong. And it was hard for me. It's kind of like when people make me defend Donald Trump. I get mad. It's like, stop making me defend people I don't like. But I'll do it, because nothing she has done would justify what happened to the people in her audience. So I think that kind of, shows the stupidity that comes out of these events, is that we're always looking for someone to blame. We can't just get the facts before we actually point the finger at the right person. But at least we can say that some good did come out of these terrible things that happened with, everybody who's passed away and all of that, because we did see some moments of humanity after the attack, with how some people chose to respond, and rather than using stupid jokes or, trying to justify things because, oh, Ariana Grande is so horrible or whatever, we saw people come to the aid of their fellow man, like Rocky Story, even though Cosmo managed to F that up magically, with their commentary on a man who is not actually Muslim giving free cab rides to people trying to be reunited with their families. That was a moment of brilliant humanity. We saw a homeless man. He doesn't even have a roof over his head, but he ran towards the kerfuffle to help people who were in need. And I sadly did not manage to pull up his story, so I can't remember his name. Does anybody have that in front of them?
His name is Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones. Thank you, Rocky.
Yeah, no problem.
Stephen Jones, apparently, homeless man living in Manchester, and he went to help people. And actually, because of his aid, people have actually put together a GoFundMe or something of the sort, and have managed to raise $30,000 for him to find an apartment and kind of get his life back on track because of the good that he did for others. And by no admission of his, by thinking that he was going to get anything out of it other than he knew he needed to help people. And we've seen other instances of this. I know we've got some other examples.
Just the fact that Ariana Grande has decided she wants to do a benefit concert for the victims, and has said that she wants to pay for the medical care and stuff. We saw the Queen herself go out and go to the hospital, which I thought was really cute. I just love the Queen. I think she's cute. And then, people who were terrible and saying that what happened to Ariana Grande was somehow karma. We saw that they put Love from Manchester on one of the bombs that they sent to ISIS, which was karma, real karma.
Yeah, the Daily Mail did a piece on that. The RAF, apparently one of their drone squadrons, decided they were going to leave a note on one of the bombs they were going to be dropping. A lot of people thought it was a hoax, but according to this story, even RAF officials are like, nope, that was totally true, and we definitely did drop a bomb on them that said, with love from Manchester. So that's like poetic justice right there. I know it's probably wrong to suggest that that's like a good thing, but yeah, it definitely is. We should do that more often. I hope all of our bombs have notes on it, like, see you later, suckers. Oh, also, you're not getting your 72 virgins.
Well, your 72 virgins are all men.
Surprise!
That's fun. It's like, here's a love note from us with a little fireworks display. Here you go. We're going to show you how much we love you by setting you on fire.
Bye-bye. So, it's stories like that give you the warm fuzzies as you think about them.
You know how our Iron Man always comes in with like music blaring? We should do like the Bruno Mars, the grenade song as we ship in some of our missiles.
Yes.
Be awesome.
I'd go fund that.
Oh my goodness. That would be brilliant. They probably already do that. I imagine most of our military men and women have a good sense of humor, so I'm sure there's a few.
They have a very sick sense of humor.
Well, we would fit right in then.
Same thing.
I think, especially after situations like these, some these unfortunate situations happen. It's I think it's in human nature to just come back and retaliate and do it with like this bravado and this, with real, balls. Can I say
I was gonna say,
balls?
are you trying to say balls right now? I can see it on the tip of your tongue.
Yes, it's like, but you just like, you know what? In your face, jerks. You did this, so now we're going to come after you, and we're going to, do it 100 times bigger, 100 times greater, and 100 times louder, just because you guys did this.
Well, it actually feels like we're doing something for a change, because we all know, anybody with a brain in their head knows that we need to do something about these people. And by these people, I mean ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all these terrorist groups that people keep like shoving their head in the sand and acting like they're not there. It feels like this keeps happening, these terrorist attacks keep happening, and we keep ignoring it or saying, oh, it's a lone wolf, or it was we knew who he was, but he didn't seem like a big deal at the time. It just feels like for once we're actually doing something when we send these little, love notes. And I don't know. I kind of need that because I feel like I know we're never going to be able to completely wipe them off the face of the planet, but it certainly would be nice to even try.
It'll feel good to punch them back so that, you'll go in fighting and you'll go in, a balls to the wall attack. And let's just do this regardless of what happens after we come after you. Let's just go all out. It's like the 300, the final push. Let's push as hard as we can and we'll see what happens, on the other side.
Well, it's like when we dropped the mother of all.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good movie. But when, when we dropped the mother of all bombs, our military felt for the first time they weren't fighting with their hands tied behind their back like they have been for the last 8 years. And that has a lot to do with General Mattis being the Secretary of Defense. But guys, we got to leave it there because we got to come back for Ring the Bell. Stay with us. To the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. It's our favorite time of the podcast. It's time to ring the bell. Okay, so last week's poll results are in. We had some pretty fun topics. Courtney told us about avocado injuries on the rise, and also told us about an ava latte, which sounded gross to us, and apparently to 86% of you it also sounded gross. 0% of you said that it sounded delicious. And
hope for humanity after all.
And the rest of you said hashtag avocados forever. So I don't know what that means.
You know what? If you want to write the polls, you are more than welcome to. I'm just saying.
No, I'm good.
Last week it was the potato. This week it's my hashtag. I can't keep up.
Then my topic was about the male rompers, aka rompins, aka brompers.
Gross.
85% of you said you're pretty sure that it's going to end humanity as we know it, because no woman is going to go near that. 8% of you said it's totally hot, which I feel like that was sarcastic. And 7% said fashion is fashion. And someone pointed this out to me. The crocodile hunter was actually one of the first people to wear the romper and make it cool. So, I love these two are fun. And then finally, Gina taught us about sologamy, marrying yourself. And we asked, do you think it's smart or certifiable? 5% of you said there's no one better than me. You're all arrogant, probably going to be on some kind of list someday. 45% said it's certifiable, try Match.com. And then 50% of you said, are there any tax credits for it? Which I can feel it. So those were our poll results. This week we'll have new ones. This week's Ring the Bell is going to be a little bit different because obviously it was really hard talking about Manchester and the tragedies that happened. So we're going to spend this one, and this Ring the Bell is going to the dogs. And we're all going to talk about dogs. So Courtney's going to start us off this week.
Okay, so this story to me is special because one of my favorite shows, I love pit bulls and parolees. I love watching stories about poor little misunderstood dogs that get a second chance. And this story is in my state. It's the city of Tukwila. And Pitbull that was in the shelter, he'd been there for about 6 months, and he was actually not a good candidate for adoption because he had too much energy. Like, I thought they were going to say something like issues, but no, it was just because he had too much energy. So basically, he is a puppy who just, needed to be out being a puppy. And someone from the shelter contacted a local canine unit, the police department there, and the police department decided he'd make a great candidate, and now he is the newest member of the police force. And his name is Apollo. He's adorable. I'll post a link for it later, but he's just a cute little fuzzy face. Love him. I really like this story for several reasons, because he's a rescue dog, and I think that's awesome that the police department got to reach out to the rescue. Is not purebred, but he's doing a good job. And pit bulls are misunderstood, and I feel like this is a great opportunity for, because they said that he went to this thing called Coffee with a Cop, an event at Starbucks in the South Center Mall, and they just got an overwhelming positive reception for with him, and that just makes me happy. So that's my little happy story. Pit bulls are awesome.
Well, I like that seems to be a thing across the board, is that because shelters are so overloaded with pit bulls as it is, that they are looking at potentially making them a source for police dogs in general, or like putting them into some form of workforce that you would see a dog in, because Belgian Malinois are the latest, they use them in the military, but also in the police force. It used to be German Shepherds. German Shepherds are really anxious dogs, so they weren't as good of police dogs as they could have been, so they switched to Belgian Malinois. Well, fully trained Belgian Malinois are supremely expensive. All of their training, everything that comes along with them, it's so expensive that like an average police force could not afford them, or they would have to do a huge fundraiser in order to get one. So they're looking at options of getting pit bulls who are just as trainable. And taking them from shelters, because an adoption fee for them is far less expensive than having like a several $1,000 Belgian Malinois, even though Malinois are amazing. But I really like that they're looking into that, because the shelters, like any shelter you look at, is going to have like 4 pages of pit bulls compared to 1 page of just normal dogs. So I think it's a great source of getting these dogs out. They're not getting euthanized, and they're being used for something amazing.
Well, and you're talking about the cost ratio. It says to date, because he's a new police dog, and he's already credited with helping to seize over $355,000 in cash and 30 pounds of narcotics. So you look at the ratio for, how much it costs to get him and how much he's taken off the streets, and I think that's a good ratio. So anyway, I'll post a link later, because he's an adorable little fuzzy face.
Yep. And so I think all of our listeners know that we love us some stories about animals, especially dogs. And this particular story will definitely have everyone smiling their way right into the Memorial Day weekend. There's a story out of Falmouth, Virginia, of students receiving the surprise of their lives when they realized that their yearbook featured a 4-legged student. There's a student there by the name of AJ Schock. He's a high school junior who suffers from type 1 diabetes, and for the past year and a half, he's been using a service dog named Alpha to help him manage his blood sugar levels. So it happens that on yearbook picture day, AJ has his picture taken as usual, and he decides to scoot his dog Alpha over to have his picture taken as well. He even has his own student ID, and you guys, it is the most adorable thing you will see on the internet. He's got this guilty look on his face on that screenshot that when you look at his picture, I swear you're going to fall back dying with laughter. Needless to say, all of his classmates absolutely love having Alpha around, and for their future together, AJ has said that he will be bringing Alpha with him to college once he graduates, and perhaps beyond once he moves on to his professional life. And as a side note, this is where I do not have issues with people bringing their service animals everywhere they go, because in Alpha's case, he is trained to monitor AJ's blood sugar level by using his keen sense of smell to determine whether there's any drastic changes in his blood sugar levels, because AJ is type 1 diabetes. So anybody who knows anything about diabetes, time is of the essence, especially if your blood sugar is too high or too low. You may not necessarily feel the effects of it, but the dog can definitely sense it through their sense of smell. And even AJ himself has admitted that thanks to having Alpha around, he has even woken him up in the middle of the night to warn him of these changes, and he's been able to take better care of himself and keep himself healthy. So I think that this is a great story, absolutely fantastic. And I think that service dogs are probably some of the hardest working people out there, because they help a whole bunch. They help a lot of people with different medical conditions, not necessarily diabetes, but they definitely do help the blind. They help kids with autism and disabled people. So I think that's a really heartwarming story. And guys, the picture of the dog, I cannot get over looking at this dog's face.
The dog is so cute. And my husband's injured, and so he's being referred to a pain management clinic. And on their website, they recommend having a dog just because it improves your mood so much that it can help you deal with chronic pain.
Why don't you have a dog yet then, Sammy?
I'm working on it. I just filled out an application to be a foster for our local shelter. So yeah, dogs are just the best. I love dogs so much.
Oh, side note, for if you're filling out to be a foster for your local shelter, there's also called Dogs on Deployment, and they need short-term, sometimes foster parents. So you can also check them out too. And have a puppy face in your home, and you'll be babysitting for someone in the military.
I can't foster because I'd want to bring them all home, which kind of leads to my story. I didn't actually have an article to talk about today because I have a personal story to share, because everyone's interested, obviously. Yesterday, my mom came home after taking one of our 4 dogs to agility, and I thought it was odd that she was calling my cell phone when I was in the house less than 100 yards away from the car, only to walk outside and to discover that she had a puppy in her lap, much to my dad's dismay, because we already have, as I said, between us all 4 dogs. And this was like maybe a 3 or 4 month old blue pit bull, and she was just adorable. Apparently Mom was when she was driving home, discovered this little baby walking down the middle of the street, looking incredibly lost, and any human she saw, she was given some hopeful tail wags to, like, do you know who I belong to? Are you my people? So Facebook is actually good for something. We are part of a Lost Pets group on Facebook for our area, and I've actually managed to reunite at least 2 dogs with their families this way. This little one included. Her name is Diamond, and I had her for 2 hours, and I have about 300 pictures of her on my phone like she's one of my own. So open up your arms and your hearts to puppies on the street. They might need your help, and that's my Ring the Bell for the week.
All right, ladies. Well, that rounds out our Ring the Bell round. We are on Twitter having a podcast party every week, every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Our Twitter is at Bells of Liberty. Facebook, The Bells of Liberty. And we post all of the links to our shows there.
You can find us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music if you missed any of our previous shows and want to come hang out with us.
All right, guys. See you later.
Night.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Thanks for listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast. Want to listen to more sassy content? All shows are available free on demand on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. Have something to say? You can find us on Twitter @Bells of Liberty, and also on Facebook, www.facebook.com/The Bells of Liberty. And as always, keep calm and ring on.